We convened the meeting earlier, I guess late afternoon, so we're been in executive session, came out of executive session and paused the meeting, so we will now vote to come back into session. Is there a motion? Moved by Mrs. May. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Harris. Call the rolls, please.
Mrs. May?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
And Mr. Weininger?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Dr. Marshausen.
Mr. Baker.
Thank you, Dr. Marshausen. Good evening, everyone. It's our pleasure tonight to recognize some of our track athletes from Dublin Kaufman. And so I'd like to introduce Matt Perrell, who is the brand new principal at Dublin Kaufman.
Dr. Marshausen, Board of Education. It is an honor for me tonight to be here with members of our athletic department to celebrate quite an amazing accomplishment considering these last 24 months. I have Athletic Director Dwayne Sheldon and Greg King here, and Coach King is going to talk here in a second. But from Kaufman's standpoint, I just want to thank the Board of Education for all that you've done over the last 24 months and your commitment to our student athletes and helping us get through these challenging times. So with that said, Coach King.
Thank you, Mr. Perrell. I'd like to introduce our girls, the state runner-up 4x800 meter relay team, and thank the board for recognizing them. They ran a 9:07.91 to finish second to Mentor High School in a really fast time that very often wins. 3 of the 4 members are here. Abby Shearer, who is a senior, and she was an individual regional qualifier in the mile and an individual state qualifier in cross country, and she'll be running next year at Hillsdale College. Olivia Euler, a sophomore, who was an individual regional qualifier on her own in track as well. Abby led off, and Olivia was second. Casey Stammen, who's a junior, was our third leg and is not here. And then Kylie Feeney, a freshman, who was our anchor leg and was an individual qualifier to the state meet as well in the 800 meters. Congratulations, ladies. The time was also a school record by, well, it beat the old school record by 10 seconds, and it beat their own school record that they had set the week before by 7 seconds.
So,
Wow.
Coach, have they peaked yet? Like, they kept getting faster and faster, right?
They have been, and I really hope not. I'm looking forward to seeing 3 of the 4 run for me next year and to follow Abby's college career next year.
Yay.
Well, good luck at Hillsdale.
Public participation for issues on the agenda. We have nobody signed up for this evening. Moving on to work session topics. Dr. Marshausen.
First of all, you have a copy of Mr. Ireland's tolls report. He was unable to join us this evening. Would like to make note and congratulate Dr. Hoadley for his appointment as the new superintendent of tolls, and we look forward to working with Todd in that new role. Next up on the agenda, Mr. Andrus, if you'd like to share some exciting news about our OELPA results.
Yeah, just briefly. Thank you, Dr. Marshausen. I just wanted to talk briefly about our OELPA results for our English learners. This is an assessment. It's called the Ohio English Language Proficiency Assessment, and it's something that our English learners take each year. And this year, we're very pleased that almost 20% of our population, so that's 339 of our 1,755 kids, basically exited the program because of the great work that they've put in, their families have put in, and our teachers and staff have put in with them. It's very similar to what we did pre-pandemic, and that includes even having about 5% of our students didn't even take it. They opted out because of pandemic-related issues, so it could have been even higher. So great work for them. Our highest exit rate grades, second and third. And if you think about what you've heard probably in your lifetime about learning a language, it's so much harder after 18, but it's also so much harder after 10. So there's two kind of peaks there. And so when we get our students, when they're younger, we put in a lot of energy, not only with our EL staff, but our classroom teachers, focusing on reading and literacy. And so we see the highest grade level, not just in Dublin, but across the state in that second, third grade range. You can see about how long it takes for students to exit the program. And the Ohio Department of Education sets a benchmark for 5 years. So we're really happy that many of our populations exit much more quickly than that. Just as a recap about our EL program, our top languages are Spanish, Arabic, and Japanese are our top 3. We have over 80 languages, kids from 100 different countries. And while between 300 to 400 kids exit each year, we'll expect to have between 400 and 500 additional students come to us next year. So our number continues to grow, and then at the end of the year, many kids exit, and then we get more kids, and it continues to grow over time. So just a few years ago, our number was at 1,300, and then this year we're about 1,800. So this population will continue to grow. We appreciate the support that the board has given. We're going to add a couple more EL teachers for next year to keep up with the growth and continue to provide great service. Any questions? Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. That's really cool. What are the top 3 again?
Our top 3 are Spanish, Arabic, and Japanese. And after that, there's a pretty big drop-off for Korean, Telugu, and Chinese. You're welcome.
And then finally, as I shared with you and we've shared with our public, as part of the federal mandate to receive ESSER funds, all school districts in the state of Ohio were required by June 24th to post our plan for safe return to schools, which we posted on Thursday of last week and was added to our website. We will continue to share that these would be our plans if school opened today, keeping in mind that we may need to adapt and adjust as necessary per conditions. We had a meeting today as county and regional superintendents with Joe Mazzola and Dr. Roberts and our health department officials, and continued to ask them to provide any guidance or recommendations or orders as quickly as possible, as it would put us all in a really tough spot if we got those on August 10th. So right now, one of the areas that has the greatest concern and has the greatest authority is the quarantine procedures from the health department for vaccinated versus non-vaccinated individuals. And that is an area that the health department has complete jurisdiction over. So we've continued to ask them for updates on where they're going to be with that. We will continue to work with them. We have those meetings during the summer months every other week with the health department officials, and we will keep our public abreast of any changes that could be made to this plan. As we say in this plan, this is fluid pertaining to and pertinent to the situation that we see in the Dublin City schools in our area. So we'll continue to monitor that, and as we said, I know there have been some questions about why this was posted on June 24th when we had said that this was going to be something that we would address later in July. And as we've talked about it, and as we've gotten ODE and federal requirements in order for us to get that ESSER money, that had to be posted on the 24th. Happy to answer any questions from the board. All right. I guess it goes right then into me. 4th of July plans and 4th of July events. We're excited to be part of an active celebration with our community once again. And Dublin is proud to have our float in the parade, and we will be participating in that. And we are proud that this parking area and Kaufman High School will once again be the epicenter for the bands and the concert and the fireworks and all of those things on Saturday, July 3rd. And it's great that our community can come back together to celebrate as one. So we're excited about that. And then we are also pleased and excited about the work that Dr. Bernice Hamilton is doing with our community. As a administrative team, Dr. Hamilton led us through a 3-hour diversity training last week, and she did a phenomenal job. She will be providing that training to our administrators at the Summer Academy, and we do have plans in the early fall to have open community sessions for Dr. Hamilton to be able to share with anyone in the community who's interested the training that we're providing to our teachers and staff. I know this is a topic that is of great interest in our community, and we want to be open and transparent about the training that we're providing. Dr. Hamilton has a great skill at engaging and presenting that material that brings us together and doesn't pull us apart. And I'm excited to have those conversations and to be able to share that with our community. And that information will be forthcoming, and we hope to do that as we return students and folks together for the beginning of the 21-22 school year.
All right, if there's nothing else, moving on to Treasurer's Office.
Yes, this is our big meeting as at the end of the year, as we're closing out fiscal year 21 and moving into fiscal year 22. So you see a slew of items on there, and we thank you, the board, for meeting one night later, as it allows us to get stuff done as we can to get on the agenda for approval. Our first one, this one you may not have seen in previous years past, but this is approval of some year-end transfers. We're actually taking money from general fund and permanently moving it over to these other funds. If you remember during the 5-year forecast presentation, we added for COVID and primarily for athletics, but you do see some drama and stuff in there. Music is where they lost out on revenue due to the COVID pandemic, and so kind of helping them out and kind of, I would say, balancing their budgets, but helping them out for any lost revenue they had. So hopefully going forward, we won't have to do something like this, but one of the things we'll need to look at is middle school athletics and how we fund that. They do a lot of fundraisers and donations, and some of those donations and kind of way they operate are, say, fundraisers are kind of past its time or kind of run its course per se. So we'll have to engage the middle school athletic directors on seeing what we can do to better fund middle school athletics. So that's something going forward. So that's on the agenda, as you can see. And we tried to, some lost more than others when it came to revenue, but we equally among either while it's middle schools or the high schools and their individual programs, whether it's athletics or drama, equal amount for those different areas. So that's that. Now, this is one you've seen before, is the cash advances, and this is primarily due to grants and how we have a cutoff on 1 week when request grant reimbursements, which is early part of June. So, and we still have the whole month, and a lot of these have payroll that go through them. So this is a little bigger than normal, but you'll see 2 of them on here. Is ESSER 1 and ESSER 2. So these are monies that have been obligated out of those 2 particular federal grants, and where we've charged back, but we haven't got those reimbursements yet. So those are a little bigger than normal. You'll see the rest of them are pretty much on par with you would have seen in past years. So the 1, 2 is, for example, the Kaufman Baseball Maintenance Support Fund. We're just waiting on teams that run our baseball fields and the timing of when we pay for people that are working in the time when we get some of the revenue in. So that's, wow, these are just called advances, so they're a temporary move of money, and then July 1st, we'll move them right back. Just so by law, we can't have any negative fund balances to end the fiscal year. So that's what these are. And then for appropriations of final FY21 appropriations, you'll see in the next in the July meeting, the June financial report, as we came on, as we typically do, come in under in expenditures, but usually within the 1% to 2%, maybe 3% range of compared to estimates. So these are the final appropriations as we wrap up the year. And then we have going to fiscal year 22 appropriations. And really, what you're really, the big one, of course, is our general fund as you look in that. Those kind of, if you look at the general fund there in the different areas, they will tie out to, for the most part, to our 5-year forecast we did in May in the personnel services and retirement benefits area. With the 400s through 900 areas, or what I like to call non-payroll, those differ from our forecast because it's kind of how we get together and how people budget depending on what they need and stuff. And so if you see farther down in the executive content of board docs, you see what we used to commonly print out for you guys, what we call the green book. Today's day and age, why print stuff out more when we have electronic copy available. One thing I did want to mention, we actually did kind of budget over what the 5-year forecast had in those areas by probably about 3 to 4%, but typically we come in way under in those purchase services and supplies areas. And some stuff has moved around with different things. For example, the SROs are now with Mr. Stark as transitioned from Dr. Deagle to Mr. Stark. And just different areas based off budgeting priorities. I know we had some licenses, cybersecurity licenses and different other things that have come up this year. That's a 3-year renewal. And then also included this year is the opening of Eversol Run and additional utilities and everything, the services that go along with that. So nothing too big. Oh, and also, I'm sorry, our virtual academy. And different things that we have to do to get that ready, including the lease, which you'll see later on the agenda this evening, has all been budgeted in there too. So we feel pretty good about with the collaborative effort, especially with the new people that have come on. They really dived real into the budgeting and really tried to come up with a good plan and outline for the year. So I applaud them for really doing that, taking hold and really trying to learn how things are budgeted. So that's really all I have about some of the year-end stuff. And then there's a few donations on the agenda also. So is there any questions as we wrap up the year?
No, but I'm sure you'll thank your staff, because I know everyone's
Yes,
been working hard.
I thank you, Mrs. May. My staff put in a tremendous amount of time, especially Tyson and Chris McDowell really put in some time getting in, but also Lynn Green in our payroll department trying to get payroll done early so we can get everything done on the accounting side of things. So they do a tremendous job, and so we're real happy with what they do. And just kind of a little small note, we've really been the same size staffing total since 1994. So my staff does a really good job with, we have some efficiencies over time, but they've done a real nice job. So.
All right. It's recommended by the Treasurer. The Board of Education approve items 8B, approval of transfers, 8C, approval of year-end 2021 cash advances, 8D, approval of final 2021 appropriation resolution, 7E, approval of appropriation resolution for 2022, and 8F, approval of donations to the Dublin City School District. Is there a motion?
So moved. I second.
Moved by Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Melody. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
Mr. Weininger?
Yes.
Mrs. May?
Yes.
And Mr. Valentine?
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Department of Academics and Student Learning.
With some of our staff on vacation, I'm going to ask Mr. Andres to give some background on the 2 recommendations that are pending in this area.
Thank you. And as luck would have it, they're both from me. So,
Right.
yeah. So the first one is Cindy Pennington. She has been working with us for, 5-6 years, helping some of our intervention specialists use a program called Matthew C. For our kids with disabilities. And she's a great asset and helps coach those teachers along as they implement that program. The second one is for Cindy Schultz. Cindy also coaches and helps train our teachers in Orton-Gillingham. She's an Orton-Gillingham Fellow, and we need her to be able to help our reading specialist, Mike Myers, become a Fellow in Orton-Gillingham and continue our in-house OG training program. These are things that we've done for a few years, and we're excited to continue with your support. Thank you.
Questions or comments? All right, there being none, it is recommended by the superintendent, the Board of Education approve items 10A, approval of payment to Cynthia Pennington, Matthew C. Training, and 10B, approval of payment to Cindy Schultz. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Weininger. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. May. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Weininger?
Yes.
Mrs. May?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
And Mr. Valentine?
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Department of Operations.
Good evening, Dr. Marshall and Mr. Kern, members of the board. I have 3 items up for your review and approval tonight. The first one is our annual renewal of our district's property and liability coverage and our student accident insurance. We're bundling them all together this year, unlike the last few years. We're recommending that we stay with Liberty Mutual Insurance. If you remember, Liberty won our request for proposal last year. They still remain competitive for what we're doing. It'll be an annual fee of $633,896. And this year's student accident insurance, which is of no cost to us, but we do vouch for it to give to students asking for it, is from K&K Insurance. And with the board's approval, this would go into effect Thursday, July 1st, all the way through the next school year. The next item is also another annual renewal, and this one is with the City of Dublin for our school resource officers. My hat off to Chuck Collier. Chuck has done a lot of work behind the scenes to get this facilitated quickly and accurately. And Chuck's relationship with the city of, with the police is really benefits the school district. This year, the contract is a not-to-exceed expense of $324,483, and really the increases are just increases in benefits and salary piece. That's about it. But it's the same coverage that we're normally used to having. Once we approve this, it'll go to City Council for approval later in July. And lastly, I'm excited to present the board with a resolution to authorize us to go into a 5-year lease for 8,289 square feet over at 4892 Blazer Parkway. We have sent the board most of the particulars as far as the rent goes, how long the rent is. What we did on this also, by the way, we did a market study. We looked at 15 comparable sites. This site was not only the lowest one in the market for what we're looking for, but also had the most pre-built offices, which really saves us on a build-out. So we've worked really quickly on this, and again, I'd like to thank Jen Schwanke, Aaron Schultz, and Shalina McConnell. The 3 of them, with their work behind the scenes, really made it easy for me to put this lease together quite quickly. We are just about done with the lease, but the terms that is presented to the board tonight will stay. The items that we're just working out right now are taxes and parking and things such as that nature, but we feel that we should have it wrapped up, if not by the end of this week, early next week, and we're still trying to get in there before school starts with the build-out piece. Those are the 3 items. I welcome any questions you may have.
Jeff, just related but unrelated with the school resource officers, with our newest schools being in the northwest part of the district outside of the city of Dublin, can you just touch for the sake of anybody
Yes, I
listening?
forgot to mention, on March 22nd, the board approved an agreement with Union County for an officer there. And we have that, so that officer will cover our Eversole run, and it will also cover DEP. So that's covered there, and then our school resources for Dublin will cover all of our Dublin schools, including the ones that are in Columbus proper. And we have a relationship with the Columbus Police via Dublin. But I did forget, thank you for reminding me, yeah, March 22nd, we do have coverage. We have an agreement with Union County that's been completely signed, ready to go, and we do have a resource officer there. And I think we are just about done completing interviews. What they do is they show us an officer. We have Chuck involved with that to see how fit goes, and I think Dr. Gibson is also involved to make sure that it'll be a good fit for us. We should have that wrapped up in the next week.
And are we going to have the SROs in the Northwest Quadrant work with our other SROs so they coordinate any activities that they're doing?
I think we're applicable, and that's really where Chuck comes in good, because Chuck is going to be that conduit to make sure that we have that consistency. Going back and forth. Where's Chuck there?
He's right
Where's
there.
Chuck there. Yeah, and Chuck will be that conduit. And like I says, having Chuck, and I don't want to embarrass Chuck here too much, but he has been a tremendous resource since he's come over to operation with all the things we've plugged him in on and things, and that consistency and pieces like that. It's really been a help. And he'll make sure that consistency, and where applicable, where to bring them together.
Great. Also, can you let us know when we might be able to tour the virtual campus facility?
Absolutely, absolutely. You have to have a lot of vision when you walk through there now.
Right.
But we hope to, by the end of July, beginning of August, take the board through.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Very excited to show you that.
On the lease for the Blazer Parkway, is that location on Dublin, or will we be able to tie into Dublin, or will it be
No, that will be a Spectrum site.
third party?
Since
Okay.
it's a lease, we didn't want to take the time and trouble of, hard wiring it in, but it will run through Expedient, so we'll run through our different connections there, run through our firewall, we'll run through our filtering, all of that, but it'll just be a Spectrum site off of Dublin.
All right, thanks.
President Valentine, could I make a point of personal privilege? Could we separate out the K&K insurance, which is a part of Nationwide, so I can vote on the whole Stark package?
Yep.
So you're making a motion to amend the agenda?
So move the agenda accordingly,
To separate the K and K?
to separate the K&K, please.
Second.
So do we need a second for that?
Yeah.
We already approved
You
it.
ready for me to call the roll on that?
I'm sorry, I didn't see that before.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Weininger?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
Mrs. May?
Yes.
And Mr. Valentine?
Yes, motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
All right. And so we are going on the first one, going to approve B and C. Brian?
I would say approve A,
Okay.
because he wanted to pull it out. So
Okay,
we'll
so
vote on A
approve A
first.
first and then go through, okay.
Then go through B and C.
Is there a motion to approve item 12A?
So moved.
A second?
Moved by Mr. Weininger, second by Mr. Melody. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Weininger?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Abstain.
Mrs. May?
Yes.
And Mr. Valentine?
Yes, motion passes 4-0 with Mr. Harris abstaining. There's recommendation by the superintendent to approve City of Dublin School Resource Officer's contract for the 2021-2022 school year and approval of a resolution for the Virtual Online Learning Academy lease. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Harris. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. May. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. May?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
Mr. Weininger?
Yes.
And Mr. Valentine?
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Mr. Marsh.
Good evening. Have a few items I wanted to highlight tonight on the HR agenda. A couple congratulations are in order, pending your approval, of course. On the certified agenda tonight, Brittany Deschler is going to be moving from Thomas Elementary School Assistant Principal to our Coordinator of MTSS, Multi-Tiered Systems of Support. That's a new position for the district. We're excited for Brittany. Under item 2, you'll see Kelly Axelband, a current admin intern, will be moving from her position as a Glacier Ridge admin intern and backfilling that elementary assistant principal position at Thomas. And then finally, under item 2, Wayne Sy, we're excited to recommend to you that Wayne become an assistant principal at Kaufman High School. Wayne comes to us from Olentangy Schools. You'll also notice, again, this time of year, a large group of certified hires under item 5. We are rounding the corner and just about finished with the hiring for this year. Just a couple openings left, so anticipate that will be able to be finished at the July 8th meeting, pending any resignations, of course. And then on classified agenda tonight, just wanted to mention under item 1, Mark Sterrett. It's a retirement, and Mark has served the district for 21 years. So thank you to Mark for his service to the district. That's all I have tonight.
Questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
We need a first and a
Oh,
second.
motion
So
to
moved.
approve items 4A through 14C. Moved by Mr. Melody. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. May. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Melody,
Yes.
Mrs. May,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Weininger,
Yes.
and Mr. Valentine.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. And before we move to future agenda items and adjourn, I know we've already been through wishing our goodbyes to Mr. Marsh, but this will be his last official meeting in his capacity as Executive Director of HR for Dublin. We can't thank you enough for your service and everything that you've assisted us with through the years. You will be sorely missed.
And serving us with calm and grace. Thank you.
Well, doing some of the best work in the district and some of the most important and difficult.
Wayne, welcome. Excited to have you here.
Future agenda items. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn? Moved by
Second.
Mrs. May, second by Mr. Weininger. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.